A lot to learn. I mean, this year, of course, the theme is honoring the anniversary of the Stonewall riots, which happened 50 years ago this year. So it's an important milestone to remember, and it's a really good jumping off point as far as having the conversation, and remembering the fact that although, this Toronto Pride Parade has grown into such a celebration, one that is, witnessed all around the world, it's also a really good opportunity to have those conversations, to continue those conversations, and remember that there's still a lot more work to do.
Yeah, a real reminder, and we heard in an interview with Gurdeep, was interviewing someone who was around at the beginning for the first marches, what were following the bathhouse raids here in Toronto, and 50 years ago, the riots at Stonewall, when the police went in, it was a gathering spot for the LGBT community, a little bit low-key, and then what happened that night was the LGBT community decided they're not going to stand for it anymore, and they fought back. And there were notables that in any of the literature that you're reading about this year's theme, Marsha P. Johnson, she was an African-American trans woman. She basically led the charge back for equality, for rights for the LGBT community. She was tragically murdered in 1992, but what she set into motion really set the stage for all the leaders in the community that followed after her to really make some significant changes, not only in the U.S. and Canada, but around the world. And as we broadcast around the world, hopefully this is a shining light for those that still feel marginalized within their own worlds to say there is hope.
Yeah, and it's amazing how one woman's story still resonates, so many years after. And speaking of, individual stories, we have 99.9's Jax Irwin, who is also, this is her first time joining you here on the parade route. So she's going to be, talking to people, normal, everyday people. She's going to have their stories, some of the difficulties, the celebrations, the milestones. And I mean, I think it's amazing when you see or listen to one person's story, how much all of this really comes back to, one individual person and how, they've struggled or how they found their identity and, how they found their place. I think she's going to be bringing a lot of interesting, wonderful stories in the next few hours.
I agree with you. And it had me thinking while you were saying that the people perhaps watching from smaller communities or around the world, seeing someone who shares your story, you don't feel so alone. There are really, and not to necessarily put a negative tone on this, but there are people who really face a lot of mental health issues, loneliness, depression, because they don't feel connected to a community. There are amazing services here in Toronto by the 519 and others, the Kids Health Fund, that can really help those out. But maybe someone connects to a story they hear today, and that not only saves their life, but allows them to be a leader in this community moving forward.
Yeah.
So there is the fun side too, and let's get there, because Gurdeep is covering that.
Yeah, he's going to have stories right along the parade route. I mean, as you can see here now, it is a celebration. You cannot, there's no way you can ignore that. People are here dressed in their pride colors. They're having fun. Gurdeep's already been talking to them, from this morning, Gurdeep, and I'm sure you're going to have a lot more fun stories as the hours progress.
Yes, the fun is just getting started. We've been here for a couple of hours. I've already talked to Carly Rae Jepsen. She is in town from LA, of course, Canada's own. She's going to be performing twice during this parade, which is a bit of a different wrinkle this year. My 7th Pride Parade, and I've never seen a live performance from a star of Carly Rae Jepsen's magnitude, so that's going to be exciting. She's doing one of those performances with Jordan Alexander, who's actually written in a special verse to one of Carly's songs, so that is special. We've talked to a bunch of fans of Pride, a bunch of Pride regulars who have been here along the route. It's really starting to fill up here, guys, at Church and Bloor. The parade is going to get started any minute here. If it's on time, in about 3 minutes, it's going to make its way west here along Bloor from Church over to Yonge, south on Yonge, eventually culminating at Yonge Dundas Square. And, right now we are locked in here, guys. We're right in the intersection of Church and Bloor. We're awaiting some special guests that are going to be here any moment. So as soon as we have that, we'll come right back to you right here at Church and Bloor. But again, Pride Parade 2019 about to get started any minute. Right now, though, we'll send it back over to the main stage.
Thanks, Gurdeep. And we want to mention, too, new this year is right alongside the Pride flag, which has been raised at City Hall, in Ottawa and also at Queen's Park. The trans flag is also waving proudly right alongside it this year.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of people say that, that's about time.
Yeah.
A lot of leaders in the trans community feel that marginalized is a strong word, but they feel they were left out of the conversation over and over again. But in a community as diverse as this one is, especially in Toronto, it was time to raise that flag and have that be just as proud a flag to fly next to the rainbow flag. And we're going to see that come down. The dignitaries that are going to lead off, Gigi Gorgeous, who is the Grand Marshal this year, a very strong trans voice. I got to meet her while doing a Pride fashion show on the Marilyn Dennis show on Friday, and boy, she speaks with courage and confidence, has a social media platform in the many millions, so a lot of followers and a real great voice for that. And then some of the other dignitaries, the Prime Minister of Canada is going to be marching right at the front, and there's also the youth ambassador, Stella Skinner. She's a 10-year-old trans activist. She believes in making schools open and welcoming, and she was fighting on behalf of Bill 77, which was against conversion therapy, and also she's one of the youngest ever to win an Inspire Award, and the Inspire Awards basically recognize real leaders in the LGBT community. I've been to a few of them. It's a very special night, and so it's a really proud moment, I think, for the community and for Stella as well. We've got the Honored Group, which is the Women's College Hospital. They're a leader in women's health and also champions of equality. And the honored guest is Scott James. He's a musician and an activist from the East Coast. So that's just the beginning.
That's just some of it.
That's just the beginning.
I think that's what's so amazing about this parade, and Pride Toronto in general is every year they try to, put the spotlight on a different group. And there's so many layers to the LGBTQ2+ community, and there's only so much time, in a 4-hour parade. And so it's wonderful how every year they try to shine the spotlight on a different part, of the group and try to get their concerns to the forefront and, try to get everybody's voices heard because there are a lot of voices and there are a lot of different stories, and it's important to tell all of them.
Yeah, and small steps too within each of these communities. Sometimes people say it's not happening fast enough, but small steps can lead to big leaps. And there are some real positive this year. I was, talking to some members of the community, and they were saying something new, something really new, is that on I think federal and possibly provincial documents now, there's a third category. There's male, female, and then X, and that allows sort of non-binary trans people, should they choose, to have an other, and that's really important to that community. It may not seem really important to everyone else, but it should, because rights for equality are rights for everyone. And we're also going to be able to talk to the Prime Minister of Canada a little bit about increased funding. From what I heard, there is $3 million going in over the next 3 years to the Prides in Toronto, Vancouver, and Montreal. And at a time when people are a little bit afraid of having funding cut off, the federal government is stepping up.
So hopefully we'll see Pride will live another year next year.
Oh, yes, and many more.
Joining us now here on stage is 99.9's Jax Irwin. We were talking earlier about what you will be bringing to this show this year, and I think it's wonderful. So you are going to be bringing stories, real-life stories from real people who are living, their proud life.
Exactly. So, I mean, we see the celebratory aspect of Pride every year, which is fantastic. We need to hear the stories, though. So we're going to have 5 different members of the community all afternoon long stopping in, chatting with us, trans, gay, lesbian, etc. And we're just going to be kind of touching in on growing up and how they celebrate Pride themselves and just really getting to know them, which I'm so excited about.
And I think the hope, too, is that people watching at home, like you mentioned, Bill, earlier, people watching at home will watch these stories and listen to their stories and hopefully get some inspiration and help their own journey.
Whether you're a parent of someone who's coming out or transitioning, or whether you yourself are kind of outskirts of Toronto getting to know what you need to know, this is so good and this is so relatable. And I just hope that this helps folks find their way into Pride next year. Yeah.
And sometimes there is that sense. If you're an ally of the community or very new to it, there's a lot that needs to be learned, needs to be felt, needs to be understood. And some of the best ways to do that is hearing someone else's journey.
Absolutely.
And hearing these stories, I think, will not only give hope to those that maybe come from small communities where they don't. There are people who've never met someone else gay in their own community, and they're coming out. How do you do that when you're alone?
Well, and that's the thing. I mean, we're so lucky to have hundreds of thousands of people here, but there are folks that are watching this that haven't even met a gay person at all. And I just think that this will give a little bit of insight into the community. And the folks that I'm having this afternoon are so brave, and I'm so just so honored to share the stories with the city and with the country.
What were they saying to you about why they decided to share their stories with you here on this stage?
Well, going back to the bravery thing, and it takes a lot, and there's a couple folks who are a little shyer than others, but it's so important to have that story heard. And like we were just chatting about, somebody that could resonate with somebody who really, really needs it. And it takes a lot to share your story and to come on television and do this. So I commend them so much and just so excited.
We're a world that's really connected by social media as well, and knowing that this is coming up, and if you know someone somewhere around the world, say, just log into cp24.com, listen to these stories, share it, and then we're going to get this whole global movement where no one will be left behind. Gurdeep is with Olivia Nwama. She is the executive director of Pride and an important voice. Gurdeep, tell us what's going on where you are.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Bill, we haven't moved again. We're right at the corner of Church and Bloor where everything kicks off. And as you mentioned, I am joined by Olivia Nwama, Executive Director of Pride. Happy Pride. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, thank you. Happy Pride to you, too.
Do you feel like your head is screwed on straight right now? I mean, I kind of feel like you're kind of at the point now where you've planned everything and whatever happens, happens.
Let the chips fall where they may. Exactly. I mean, right now what we're trying to do is make sure that we maintain order. But for sure, I think everybody's just super excited to get this thing going. And we're super excited about it, too.
You know, you've been at this gig for a few years now. I remember interviewing you, I think, in your first year.
You did.
And you sounded a little more nervous then. You seem a bit more relaxed, calm, and cool. Does this gig ever get easier?
Absolutely not. I'm only calm and cool because it's just been a longer time that I've been engaged in it. No, it feels great. Now we're at the third festival. I'm much more secure about what I'm meant to be doing. I understand now what the people want to see, and so we're going to try to give it to them today.
I know this parade has grown from last year in terms of the number of floats. 227, I believe, is the final number. That's huge. Is this just something that you've seen grow under your 3 years of leadership?
It is. In fact, we have more contingents now than we did during World Pride in 2014. It has been unbelievable. This is the biggest Pride we've ever held.
I mean, how big is this thing going to get? Can you project this thing 5 years, 10 years down the road? It's sort of hard to envision.
Well, you know what? We envisage that, about 5% of the community are LGBTQ2+. So the longer this goes on, the more comfortable people will feel coming out and the more comfortable people will feel coming here.
I know this year, in addition to the Pride flag, the trans flag also going to be flying proudly beside that. What else is new? What else is different this year?
Well, the first big thing is that Carly Rae Jepsen is going to be performing inside our parade. We've never done that before, and that is huge. So she will be performing twice along the route on the Bud Light float. We're incredibly excited about that. This is the first time we've ever done it. And the other thing we're doing is at Yonge Dundas Square, we are actually starting our entertainment right at after the parade ends. So for the first time, we're going to go straight from parade into party.
Oh, that's a perfect segue right there. Oh, my goodness. Well, listen, Olivia Nwama, I know you're busy. I know you got stuff to do. Thank you for taking the time to join me. Happy Pride. And you ordered some good weather this year. I know we didn't get it the last couple, but we're all good in 2019.
We are amazing. Thank you for coming, and we look forward to seeing you 4 hours later.
Okay, thanks, Olivia.
Thanks.
All right, I'm going to send it back over to the main stage to you, Bill and Zoraida.
Thank you, Gurdeep. I can't see Gurdeep right now, but did we send him the email about the kaleidoscope theme that you and I...
I do love this. We had not planned this at all, but I think when you think of Pride, Gurdeep and Zoraida,
you get
think
the same picture in your head.
You think colors, you think rainbows, you think fun shapes, you think diversity, and we just happen to match very well. I think it's fun, but that's something. As you look up and down Yonge Street, I know we're still a little bit of ways.
Yeah, we're not original. We're not the only one who had this idea.
There's plenty of incredible outfits and incredible color, and that's why I love being up here on stage. And some of the new things, there's an accessible viewing area, which makes me really, really happy.
Yeah, that's great.
This community is really, and this parade is all about diversity and accessibility. And there's something else. There is the clean and sober and proud. That is where people can gather if they don't want to be in the presence of drink for whatever reason. And that has also been a feature here at Pride Weekend, Pride festivities for many years. This moved to Norman Jewison. That's a church in Gloucester, so that gives them an opportunity to celebrate. And we had the Pride and Remembrance Run on Saturday. That's raising money for all kinds of great community causes. The Trans March happened on Friday, kind of kicking everything off for trans and non-binary.
The Starry Night event, which is always a fun event.
Yes, and the Dyke March, which happened on Saturday. So there's a lot. It's a very, very diverse community, Gurdeep. You're getting a different perspective where you are. First of all, what are you wearing? Because I haven't seen you yet. And what are you seeing up where you are? It must be really starting to get going.
We should have sent you the email.
Yeah, you know what, guys? I can't give you a look at what I'm wearing right now because right now we're just in a very tight scrum. We're awaiting a special guest right now, so I promise I will show you what I'm wearing, and I think you're going to love it. I think it would fit the Kaleidoscope theme. I didn't get that email, but right now, guys, we're at the corner of Church and Bloor, and things are a little bit crazy over here. Trying to find my cameraman. Okay. Here, you know what? I'm going to give you a quick look at the jacket now. Kevin, show him my jacket, eh? There we go. Love is love. We got the Toronto skyline in there. Yes, so it's all good. It's a little warm, but I'm feeling the Pride vibes.
You're very crafty, Gurdeep. Did you have a hand in the design on this?
Actually, yeah, I'm going to shout it out. Original Jeans _TO. That's GENES on Instagram. She did this for me custom. It took about 4 hours. I said, give me something that is pride friendly, pride ready, and also represents Toronto. And this is what the artist Stephanie came up with. Love it.
Very good.
So you're leaving the Kaleidoscope for Zoraida and I. That jean jacket, though, I'm sure the crowd will be encouraging you to remove a couple of layers because it must be hot. We're lucky enough. We're kind of in the shade right now. Don't think the clouds have moved back in. It is a gorgeous day, but we're just getting a bit of the shadow of a condo, and I'm not really complaining too much. A lot of people standing out in the sun for several hours will have a lot to think about in terms of preparing for that today, Zoraida.
Bring your sunscreen, bring your water, be prepared because it is a hot day today, unlike what it's been in the last, couple of prides where, it was kind of rainy and actually torrential downpour, I think, last year, right? Yeah, so this year we have umbrellas, but they're to shade themselves from the sun. So the umbrellas are still up this year, but it's to hide from the sun, which is also very smart.
Gurdeep has a way to stay fresh and hydrated because as he goes up and down the parade route, he at some point I think will probably have a super soaker in his hand. Right. But last year he was absolutely drenched. I'm not talking just by Mother Nature. It gets a little fun, a little wild with all the super soakers going down. Gurdeep, you're waiting for our Prime Minister. He's right at the front of the parade. Can you get a sense of how that's all shaping up with the Grand Marshal and Prime Minister Justin Trudeau? Are they getting close to you?
You know, it's a little tough to see. We're just getting some instructions right now from his team. The time is always a little bit loose when you're dealing with high-profile politicians like this. We were told 2 o'clock. It's obviously about 10 minutes after right now. We've got some federal liberals standing by. We've got Mayor John Tory still here, and we've got a whole bunch of media sort of in a tight circle right now, all awaiting Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. And there's a lot of excitement around here. I don't know if the crowd knows that he's going to be speaking, but it looks like he's going to be coming by any minute. The media scrum is all set to go, so we will take that just as soon as it happens, guys.
Well, the crowd was certainly hyped up. We had a couple of golf carts come down with the rainbow flag about 10 minutes ago, and you should have heard the cheers along the route. Those were those were volunteers, very important volunteers. That's a huge thing about this parade too, guys. Everywhere you look, collecting money for charities, getting the kiosks ready. This is incredibly volunteer-driven to make everything happen today. And I'm always amazed, Zoraida, at how it all comes together.
You would need to have, so many hands on deck to get something like this, pulled off. It's a huge parade. And again, this year will be the biggest that the Pride Parade has ever been. More than 220 floats will be making their way down this route, which is almost 2 kilometers long. I can see in the distance now from where we are here. We're at Yonge and Grenville. I can see the flashing lights in the distance. So we are starting to see some action here along Yonge Street. Everybody here just really excited and just like right alongside the parade route here. It is packed. It is packed with people who are just waiting anxiously. The excitement is really building. I can feel it.
And it's a long parade route, but it's long enough that you can still probably get a pretty good spot. I love this vantage point because we can look almost as far down as Gerrard, maybe a little bit past. And then as we look up, we can see to Bloor. And now what was maybe 1 or 2 rows deep is probably about 6 or 7, but there's still plenty of room behind to secure your spot. And it's really worth coming and if you've never been to this Pride Parade before, it is remarkable what you will see. The courage, the fun, a little bit of activism rolled in there, and dignitaries. We have, people who really care about diversity and equality. and want a whole lot of fun rolled in as well.
And I think it is wonderful. We were touching on this a little earlier, and I'm sure we'll talk about it again, as the day progresses, about how this parade has been able to strike that balance between sending, a message of progress and the work that still needs to get done, but at the same time really celebrating how far we've come and, celebrating the day, celebrating inclusivity, celebrating diversity, and celebrating pride.
Yeah, and there still are there are discussions being had right now. A couple of years ago, Black Lives Matter made a protest sit-in at the corner of Carleton and Yonge, or College and Yonge, and we still have relationship building with the community and the Toronto Police, and those are conversations being had. We live in a very polarized time where people just want to say, no, it's my way or the highway, but I think as long as we're talking that sense of activism, a very important part of Pride Month and the Pride Parade is what we have to recognize as well. Enza's back with us.
Yeah, Enza,
welcome back to stage.
This is the third year that the uniformed police officers once again will not be marching in this parade, and I think that is certainly very telling of the fact that there is still more work to be done. The conversation has to continue, and the fact that the vote was so close, it was so tight. I mean, I guess it tells us two things. One, that there is division even within the community, and two, that there is, some work to be done.
We're going to come back in just a second. We're going to send it to Gurdeep because the Prime Minister of Canada is talking right now. Gurdeep.
Still worried about coming out, still worried about their communities. This message that politicians of all different stripes are out to support them, that the country takes to the streets across Pride Month and at Pride events to support our friends in the LGBT communities, that we are all allies, continues to be an important message here in Canada and, of course, around the world, ever more so. C'est un grand plaisir d'être ici. Fierté Toronto, une opportunité, encore une fois pour moi, de marcher avec fierté dans une parade de la fierté. J'ai bien hâte à tous les autres événements de cet été aussi. C'est important aussi pour les jeunes qui pourraient regarder ça à la télévision, voir à quel point des leaders de ce pays sont là pour les appuyer, pour être des alliés. Thank you very much, everyone. Happy Pride!
How you doing? Nice to see you. How are you?
Okay, folks, we gotta get 20 feet distance. Let's start. Guys, come on, backwards. Let's go. Let's go, folks.
Gotta move this, guys. Don't worry. Awesome. Go for it. Start walking. Yep. Perfect. All right, guys, so you just heard the Prime Minister making his opening remarks to get this parade started. And just to set the scene for you guys, a little tough to tell from your vantage point. There's a glut of federal Liberals, Mayor John Tory as well in the mix, and we, as the media, are just sort of walking backwards right now, walking west along Bloor, making our way away from church, slowly towards Yonge Street as the Prime Minister makes his slow march through the Pride Parade right now. And this is just to really sort of get things started. He made his opening remarks, and now you're going to start to see all the floats making their way through, 227 of them. They're just sort of stopping for a photo op right now. And, the Prime Minister, no stranger to Pride. He's been here in years past. He was not here last year, but he was here the year before that. And it always obviously draws a lot of extra security, a lot of extra people, a lot of extra excitement when the PM is in town. Second appearance here in Toronto within 7 days. Of course, he was at another parade just about 6-7 days ago, speaking at the Raptors rally at Nathan Phillips Square. So it looks like they've stopped right now, and they're asking the media to continue backing up to make some room for the Prime Minister and his contingent as we are now slowly snaking our way west along Bloor Street towards Yonge Street. And I don't have a great vantage point, guys, because I'm behind all of our cameramen, but I trust that everybody is making their way over now. There we go. And now the Prime Minister acknowledging the crowd. Not sure if that came across on the mic, but getting a big round of applause here from the people who've lined the early part of the parade. And guys, it's amazing how quickly this parade fills up. I was here at this intersection just about an hour and a half ago, and There's only 1 or 2 people deep. I can tell you now, as I'm just looking around here, this parade is packed now. People are along the fence and probably about 10, 15 people back all the way up to the establishments here on Bloor Street. So everyone has got their cell phone cameras out trying to snap a picture of the Prime Minister as well. This is the world we live in. Everyone's got to capture it on their phone, or I guess it didn't happen. And right now we're looking at Prime Minister Trudeau and Mayor John Tory exchanging a word. Can't get my microphone in there, so we'll just have to use our imagine as to what they're saying. But let's just sort of listen in, take a look and a listen right now to 2019 Pride Parade right here exclusively on CP24.
So they started closing down the street about 12:30, and now it belongs to the parade. And as you saw, up with Gurdeep, the Prime Minister of Canada, Justin Trudeau, John Tory, the Mayor of our city, exchanging words, both explaining why it's important for them to be here, but also what a wonderful time for this city. And I'm sure they probably had some words about the weather today. Finally, it's sunny on the Pride Parade.
Absolutely. We've got Enza Anderson here on stage with us. We were talking earlier before the Prime Minister spoke about the fact that this is the 3rd year that uniformed police officers will not be marching in the parade. And so, I mean, that's certainly telling that there's work to be done.
I think it's significant that they do keep talking. And as you know, as a community, we've gone through our struggles with the police, but at the same time, we've worked with the police as well, and they work with us. And so I think that communication will always get us even further.
Yeah, I mean, there are obviously roles for security happening this year. It's not that the police are not part of this parade at all. But it is a discussion. We sometimes look to the mainstream, even within the LGBT community. Everything seems fine, but sometimes there are those on the fringes that aren't being heard, and sometimes you need to direct that spotlight on the quieter voice to bring up really important issues. And for a while that was the trans community, and possibly still is, but I'm sure within a very, very diverse community, there are those that don't feel they're being heard right now. And when you have meetings that come together and discuss things with Pride, like whether the police should be in uniform during the parade, not everyone's going to be in agreement, but like you said, as long as that discussion is being made and the Chief Saunders seems to want to continue to build that relationship, there's goodwill, and that's a good starting point.
Absolutely. And, you know, I could see the police when they raise the pride flag and they raise the trans flag, and I think that the support is there, like the willingness to still communicate with the community is always there, right? So people will keep talking for sure.
But and I think it is important too, you know, if people have concerns and they're not satisfied with how far, you know, how much of an effort is being made, and they do want to see continued change. It's important that they, you know, they speak up and that they are heard. So, I mean, I think it does send a message to, you know, the Toronto Police Service that they have to. It's more than just words. It's more than just coming to the table and having a discussion. You know, people need to actually see it and feel it on the streets and in their, you know, in their conversations, you know, with uniformed officers, you know, in that, you know, community building, you know, the relationship that, you know, people actually see and feel. It's through experience that you start to change how you feel.
I think, too, it's also that relationship they have with community leaders, right? When they reach out to the leaders in the community, they get a sense of the pulse of what's happening, right? Because a lot of people, you know, talk to the leaders, you know, talk to community activists and say, this is what's going on, and they bring that to the police, right? And so having that community involvement, those leaders that you can reach out to, then they'll be our voice to the police, right? So it's important to have that.
And one of the reasons we have you here on stage with us, one, because you look fantastic, and you're a wonderful person, but also you have a real connection to the history of the trans movement and leadership in this city, and it's important to see how far we've come to know how far we can go. So we'd love you to share a little bit about maybe how far we've come, so that will give hope to those.
I mean, you know, 10 years ago, like the issue of trans inclusion was never discussed, was never brought brought up. You know, there were a lot of people fighting for it, and every time you would mention it, it would kind of be put on the back burner. And as of late, the trans inclusion is sort of taking steam. It's like going further ahead. Companies now are embracing it. They're having programs towards making sure that if people transition at work, that their benefits are met, that it's a safe environment, that there's no harassment. And so that's very important. I mean, for me, transitioning was the hardest. You know, I always wanted to fit in. I never wanted to be on the outside. I wanted to be on the inside. So I wanted that job in a corporate environment. I wanted to be able to walk down the street and not get harassed, right? So there's that voice and that acknowledgement that the trans community is finally being heard. Right?
And I think I think it's wonderful, and I'm sure it felt wonderful for you when you saw the trans flag going up this year. Flying right alongside the pride flag.
Yeah, wherever I see it around the city, I feel like we're finally our voices have been heard, right? And so it's quite exciting.
Thank you for that. And we're going to send it over to 99.9's Jax Irwin. We've been talking to Jax about how she's got wonderful stories to share, and she's got wonderful guests who want to share their story. Let's go over and talk to her now. Hi, Jax.
Hey, thanks so much, guys. We're joined by the incredible Dan Marquardt, and he identifies as an openly gay male. And I just kind of want to chat with you. First of all, happy Pride. Look at this weather, right?
Pride.
I just wanted to ask you about, because you are married to the wonderful Carson, who's an American citizen. So that is kind of a specific journey. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, the immigration process, for us, it was about 2 years. And I mean, again, him being an American citizen, between both of us, we kind of had to decide which country are we going to live in. We got married in 2015, and gay marriage was just legalized in the U.S. We did choose Canada for our home base, and it's been fantastic.
And so I imagine it's a bit of a different environment, being open and married here. So when you walk the streets of Toronto, whether it's Pride or whether it's not Pride, do you find it kind of a welcoming environment for you?
Yeah, definitely. I think Toronto is a great, large metropolitan city, and we've had a pretty great experience living here.
And I mean, obviously, downtown Toronto is not indicative of rural areas. So if you could give any advice to maybe a younger gay male that's just coming out, or maybe celebrating his first Pride, watching the television, maybe not even comfortable yet to come to Pride, what would you have to say to them?
Yeah, I just tell them to reach out to their peers and hear stories from people like myself. If any part of me can be inspiring to show that, hey, I'm doing it, I'm out and proud, and I'm living here, maybe you can be too. Obviously, take your own steps based off what you need to do and how you feel comfortable, but just make it happen.
And I kind of want to ask, what does Pride mean to you? I mean, you've been celebrating and you've been out and about and doing, of course, the parties, etc. What does Pride mean to you as Dan?
So, I mean, I obviously love the celebration, the inclusivity of everyone coming for this big event. But for me, Pride also brings it back to sort of getting to enjoy the everyday, boring, mundane things that everyone kind of does. Pride started out as riots. I mean, you had Stonewall 50 years ago in New York. Bill C-150 in Canada was passed 50 years ago. Pride to me is just, it means that my husband and I can hold our hands while walking the dog down the street. It means that a transgender person of color can be in the walk-in clinic's waiting room and receive the same level of compassionate care that anyone else would. It means that my lesbian friends could bring their son to soccer practice and not endlessly be asked where the dad is. It's just true equality for all sexual orientation and gender identity.
I love that you said, Pride started as a protest, and we do get to celebrate, but that's so important to know, especially with the 50 years since Stonewall. This is a very important day. Anybody coming in here, of course, is going to enjoy the sunshine. Any quick advice as to what to do if this is their first Pride?
Enjoy.
Yeah.
Chat to people. Connect with people. Ask someone their random story. Give someone a compliment. Just be inclusive.
Drink lots of water as well. Dan Marquardt, thank you so much, and happy Pride, everybody.
Pride.
All right, thank you so much. I love hearing these stories, Jack, and it is really important for those watching today to know that they are part of a big community, and their story is not one that they have alone. They share that. We're here with Toronto Paramedic Services, Peter Rotolo, also Randall and Courtney and Leo here. Tell me a little bit about, first of all, what it means to be part of this parade, and then I'll ask you a little bit about the importance of you and the whole festivities being here to save those that need saving and help those that need helping. But first, share your experiences, how important it is to be part of this parade with paramedic services.
Sure, I think it's important to be part of the community, to celebrate with everyone, and to be here and feel so welcomed by everyone here. It's been a great experience. We really had fun.
On the flip side, how important do you think it is that everybody here sees you, that they see that you are part of this parade and taking part and joining in the festivities and the celebration?
Yeah, I think it's important for them to see us, to be familiar with us, to feel safe, to come to us for help. We're here to help everyone, and we want everyone to know that we're here for them, to come and talk to us if they need us.
Tell me a little bit about the culture within the Toronto Paramedic Services for embracing LGBTQ issues. Is it even a thought? Is everyone just a paramedic first and everything else after, or is it important to recognize those differences?
I think we recognize that Toronto Paramedic Services is very diverse in cultures and ethnicity. So we're paramedics first, and everybody is a patient. There is no distinguishing between any community, and as one, as paramedic service, we are part of that community, and it's reflected in the paramedics and support staff that we have working for Toronto Paramedic Services and part of the city.
Today,
sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, today is going to be perhaps some people may actually need your services today for more than one reason, because the sun is out. It's going to be a hot day. We're trying to stress to viewers, people who are coming down, to make sure they are, ready for the heat that is upon us today.
Yeah, definitely. Stay hydrated is an important message, and look out for your friends. If they seem to be unwell, recognize that and reach out for help. We're here.
Is this tough? I mean, logistics for this many people. How do you negotiate that?
No, with proper planning, we're always prepared to handle anything along these sorts of events. And we've, Pride. This is our third year with Pride. We're very involved in terms of the planning and making sure we are organized and we are prepared to handle this sort of crowd. So absolutely, we're absolutely prepared.
Well, we really appreciate what you do, and thanks for being part of the Pride Parade this year.
Thank you.
We look forward to having you back every year, and great work. Really appreciate
Happy
that.
Pride.
Happy Pride. Thank you very
Enjoy
much.
the parade. We'll look for your float.
Hopefully you don't have to do too much work.
No.
Hopefully everybody's going to stay safe today.
And it is something to think about and talk about, too. The weather has been fantastic. There's a nice little breeze that comes up every now and then. We're a bit sheltered here from the condo in front of us, which is kind of nice. But there are major stretches along this parade route, which runs from Church and Bloor over to Yonge, all the way down to Yonge Dundas, which have been baking in the sun for a little while longer. And sometimes you kind of forget, with this breeze going by, the impact that can have on you.
Yeah, it's going to be a few hours yet. More than 220 floats, 227 floats will be making their way down. So, yeah, you want to enjoy yourself, but you want to be safe as well.
Yeah, and just to remind you, we can see a little bit from this vantage point. I'm not sure not everyone, depending on where you're watching from, can tell, but the parade is just to the front of it, just passing through Yonge and Wellesley, and leading off right at the front. We're going to have Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, and Gurdeep is up with some of those front contingents, Gigi Gorgeous, and then we've got our youth ambassador. Gurdeep obviously has a much better finger on the pulse of what's happening at the beginning. Gurdeep, are you with us? What's going on where you are?
Oh, I am with you, Bill, and it's that time of the parade where it starts to get hard to hear you guys, Bill and Zoraida, but oh my goodness, this is fully underway. We are now at the corner of Bloor and Yonge. Happy Pride, everybody! Do you hear that? Do you feel that, Toronto? We are out. We can do 2 parades in 1 week. I'm joined now here by
Jody?
Brian. All right, I know it's really hard to hear, guys, but bear with me. Your shirt says free dad hugs and free mom hugs. What was the inspiration behind these?
Just love your children unconditionally.
Love your children unconditionally. So you guys were telling me you're from Burlington and you've never been down to Pride before. Why this year?
Access. And we've always wanted to be, and it was been fantastic. We will be here every year now.
Isn't it amazing? I had the same experience. I had never come down to Pride until I was assigned to work it 7-8 years ago. And I thought to myself, gosh, why have I not been coming down to this every year? It's just a big party, isn't it?
It is a fantastic party.
Doesn't matter who you are, where you're from, who you love.
No.
It's for everybody down here. What are your early impressions of Pride so far, your first one?
Fantastic. Very inclusive. Love it.
And did you decide to come down just out of curiosity? Is there anyone that you're here supporting?
We have friends, and our son's best friend is trans and super supportive, and we think just love your kids unconditionally.
You know, this parade's fun every year, but you guys picked a really good year because the last 2 years it's been raining. So I'm just saying,
perfect.
You've been paying attention to CP before.
Yes, definitely.
And Dad, what about you? You're silent over here. What are you thinking?
I let the wife take care of it all.
You're a smart man. We can all learn from you. All right, guys, thank you so much. Enjoy yourself here. Hunker down. It's going to be a long, fun day. I hope we brought some sunscreen and some water.
Absolutely, both.
Okay, good stuff. I may have to borrow some from you because I've lost the truck. All right, Bill's a rider. We're going to send it back over to you guys. Lovely to meet you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gurdeep. Yeah, sunscreen, a very good idea, especially for those folks, Bill, who are on the sunny side of the street. We were lucky to catch a little bit of shade right now, but when that sun is on you, boy, you certainly can feel the heat, and to be standing there for the next few hours, you got to make sure you're definitely prepared.
Yeah, they always make a little bit of fun of me because I could have 70 sunblock on. I still end up like a lobster by the end of the day, but we're doing our best. And yes, I'm fortunate right now to be in a bit of shade, but I think the sun will return here. So we're looking at the initial vehicles behind us. It looks like a couple of TTC vehicles perhaps and a police vehicle. That's just giving a little bit of space between the front of the parade and some of the dignitaries coming in afterwards, but the crowd's certainly on either side. This is why I love doing this every year. One of the many reasons I love doing this is the vantage point you get to see how many people coming out to celebrate diversity, to really encourage those in their lives that they are loved, give them that message.
Everyone here just really in a happy mood, really, it's peaceful. Everybody is polite. People have been coming up to us to say hi as they, patiently wait for the start of this parade to come down here. We're at Yonge and Grenville, so we're kind of right in the heart of it.
We are, and you say it's quiet and calm, and I
it's going to change. For now, you're laughing at me.
we won't even be able to hear each other in about 10 minutes, but that's a good thing because that means the excitement along this route will be 1,000%, and this is what everyone's been waiting the last couple of hours, trying to secure their spot so that they can see this. And the Prime Minister is literally just a few blocks away. I think they've turned the corner, heading down south on Yonge Street from Bloor.
We can start to hear the screams now from further north.
The whistles. The fans
partying.
Opening.
Yeah.
And there's, again, over 200 floats this year. Some of those will be marchers. Some of those will be collecting money for various charitable organizations, some really important organizations, some that deal with hospices for those with HIV/AIDS, some providing support services for those that are just coming out, for the trans community, all kinds of diverse needs within a very diverse community. So we'll be trying to catch as many people along this parade route as we can to give them a voice and a bit of a platform that we're lucky enough to have here to spread their message and try to gain some support.
And certainly the hope is that this parade today will remain celebratory and that it will remain, positive. And we saw last week in Hamilton that there was some disruption at the Pride celebration there. So this year, the 519 is actually handing out safety kits, mobilization kits for people that include bandanas and information on how to report any confrontations or any, negative activity that might be going on, throughout the parade route. So, it's a happy day. It's a celebratory day. It's also a day to spread positive messages, and we want to keep it safe and we want to keep it happy.
We absolutely do. Oh my goodness. Melissa Grello.
Hey,
Marchese. You all know Melissa Grello from The Social and when we used to work together on CB24 Breakfast.
Hey, happy Pride.
Welcome.
Happy Pride. You guys look amazing.
Right back at you.
Thank you.
So, Marchese, how are you?
What do you want to say? What do we say at Pride? She'll think about it.
Well,
It's
I
her
love
first
your pride colors.
Did
I
you
love
like
your
your
pride
dress?
colors. They're lovely.
Yes, this was a really big year for us because it's our first Pride with Marquesa.
Wow.
And so we thought this is really, really important. We have a lot of gay family members that we support through and through, and so she fully understands that love is love. And so we wanted to really show her what it's all about and what the city of Toronto can show.
How is Marquesa feeling about the crowds and the excitement? Is it just overwhelming, or is it exciting?
You would think a 5-year-old would be like, whoa, this is a bit much, and she's like, I'm good.
Oh, it's going to get loud.
Yes. But you look absolutely beautiful, Marquez, as do you. And you've obviously partaken, though, in Pride Parades in the past and contributed in your own way. How do you feel about the way this is growing year over year?
You know what? One thing that it continues to amaze me is really the support. And, I know this is a particularly big year for Pride really around the world. And so any way that we can support, I'm really proud to be here.
That is so awesome. Carly Rae Jepsen is performing now. This is something new this year on When the Budweiser float.
She was a surprise for people who are coming to the parade. She's actually going to be on now. She's on now.
Yeah, let's listen in. Let's listen a little bit.
Baby, I'm into you. I can't help it. I'm just waiting to see what's next. Complicated, late night, laying by your side. We got something more night. Wait till
I'm forgetting to fake this right now.
it feels right. What it feels right? 'Cause it
keep them on red. Pop it, pop. Daydreaming by hot rocket. Rocking my phone with a horse, so I know let me come over and ride.
All right, well, there she was, Carly Rae Jepsen, performing multiple songs on the Budweiser float. A real treat for those lining the parade route this year. A bit of a surprise. It was under embargo. We couldn't say anything. We were excited. She's been a real ally to the LGBT community over the last several years, and exciting to have her along the parade route. I thought maybe she would be performing at the end of it at Yonge Dundas Square, but to actually being able to provide those that have been around here trying to find their spot a little bit of musical entertainment from such a great ally.
I hope and I'm sure the crowds here are hoping as she comes down along this stretch that she'll perform again. So we're hearing she might.
Okay.
Right? We're hearing she might perform again. So, but either way, we'll be seeing her soon, along with the Prime Minister, who's just at the front of the parade. So we're just seeing the beginnings of the parade here where we are, Bill, at Yonge and Grenville.
Yeah, just having passed by two TC special event buses, and right in behind it, two spirited people, and a lot of people, the acronym LGBTQ2S plus. The 2S, Two Spirited, is the belief in the Indigenous communities that some have both male and female within one person, and I think it's really a beautiful way to look at it. And so they were showing some Aboriginal dances and some drumming right off the bat, following behind the special event buses. Now there's a little bit of a gap, but I can see just north of Grosvenor, I believe that was the group that Gurdeep was talking to a little bit earlier, the Amazon Toronto Bikers.
Yep, Toronto Amazon's Motorcycle Club.
Well, there you go. You've got the full name. I'm not sure if they were giving him a little bit of a lesson on them or just revving, but this is where it starts to get loud, Ryan, because, we had the calm, and now we're going to get revving engines, and they like to do that as they come on by. So loud mufflers, and I think they're just waiting for the light to go green there, and in behind it, you can see it's float after float after float. Over 200 this year. How many did we're talking?
I think they said 227 floats this year, right?
Wow.
Last year they were just under 200.
Okay.
So it's definitely bigger than it was last year. I'm excited.
Good.
This is really
It's worth being excited.
I could see everybody waving, just over, just a little further north from where we are, from where the parade has really gotten going.
Okay,
so.
are you prepared? This is about to get very loud. Here they come. Yeah. Waving, beautifully decorated bikes. You got the rainbow flags adorning. You got ribbons hanging off. The flags.
Giant boas.
Oh, giant boa around the front.
Just wrapped around their motorcycles.
That is fantastic. So yeah, these are just the initial. I guess they call them floats, but they're marchers and they're bikers. And listen to those mufflers. They're going to rev for us. I have no doubt. Oh, and the helmets all adorned as well. The pink mohawk there, showing their pride. Very loud and excited way.
Revving their engines.
Yeah, revving in their engines. Oh, and in behind it. Wow, honking. The crowd's finally a reason to start screaming and getting ramped up themselves.
Okay, that's a cool way to make your way down the parade route.
To have yourself heard, absolutely.
Yeah, I like that.
Oh, we've got Carly right here.
Hello.
Hello. So we're just gonna let those microphone or the mufflers die down a little bit. So we've got the Prime Minister coming very soon. He's just marching right at the front of this next section of people. And he's surrounded by his contingent.
Oh, I think I see him.
Yep, waving to the crowds. this reminds me back when the first year I did this was World Pride, and the Prime Minister came down and again was very, very accessible at that point, shaking hands, really showing his strong support for this community. And we're going to ask him a little bit about two initiatives that seem to be real positives this year. They had legislation passed on all documents. You can now put an X, not male, not female, but X, and that's important for people who are non-binary or trans as they identify with something else. And also increase funding at a time where there was real fear of seeing cuts to a lot of the prides across the country. At least three of the main ones, Toronto, Montreal, and Vancouver, will get $3 million over 3 years for all three. That's the total amount contributed. But that can go a long, long way at times when a lot of belts are tightening and they're not sure where to get that funding from. So we're going to ask the Prime Minister about that. And here he is, not too far away.
Yep. People waving Canadian flags behind him as he makes his way south here on Yonge Street towards where we are here on the riser at Yonge and Grenville.
Yeah, we certainly don't want to rush him too much. I mean, this is one of the things people are waiting for, and if you've got your spot on the side of the road for a couple of hours and what you've been waiting for whips on by.
You're right, absolutely. And you know what? Even as someone walking down the parade, you want to kind of take it all in, right? You want to make eye contact and, acknowledge people who are waving at you. Lots of people here waving their pride flags, waving their Canada flags.
And all kinds of dignitaries today. We had John Tory, the mayor of Toronto here, Patrick Brown, the Brampton mayor, Andrea Horwath, Ontario NDP leader, Jagmeet Singh, who is the federal NDP leader, Elizabeth May of the Green Party. So a lot of politicians coming up, and they all have very strong alliances and strong support of this community, and they're going to get their chance to say what they feel is the work that still needs to be done in legislature, and just also in the way people think about this community too, because it starts with ideology and then ends up with law. So you got to change people one step at a time, or get them at least to broaden their minds.
And for many of them, they've been here, they've come and supported the Pride Parade many years in a row now, and they return again this year. So it's very interesting to get their take on how they've seen this parade grow and how the messages have changed and evolved over the years.
Yeah. And like I said, it starts to get really, really loud, but that's a good thing. A lot of people working in politics because they believe that their activism through politics is how we're going to get change. Others are social activists, but we're starting off with some of the dignitaries from the world of politics, and there is Prime Minister Justin Trudeau waving a proud Canadian pride flag, waving at the crowds, and he's going to join us up on our platform. Swing of water to stay hydrated. Absolutely.
Needed on this day.
Prime Minister!
Prime Minister, welcome!
Oh, it's great to be back here at Pride Toronto.
How does it feel in front of all these crowds? I mean, Toronto really is, being put on the world stage when we have this Pride Parade.
Toronto is celebrating a lot these days. From the Raptors to Pride, it's just, if we can make it every year, both of those, that'd be wonderful. But Pride in Toronto is un incontournable, as we say in French. It's a must-do. It's such a pleasure to be here to celebrate, and the amount of coverage it gets, the amount of people come out, and the message that we send to people at home who may be facing challenges or discrimination when political leaders, when the whole community comes together to say we are allies, we are marching in Pride with all of you.
Some of the big positives this year on a federal perspective, the increased funding for prides over the next 3 years, and the ability to put an X, not male or female, on federal documents. Can you talk about those initiatives?
Well, we didn't just fund prides across the country, big ones and small ones. We put money towards grassroots community LGBT organizations to help out in the communities, because we know that so many members of the LGBTQ community are facing greater discrimination, greater challenges, greater barriers. Those incredible grassroots organizations, community organizations that work hard, are essential. That's why we put $20 million over the coming years directly towards those community organizations.
When you look around you and you look at this and you see how this parade has grown over the years, it's hard to believe that in some other parts of the world, you know, in other governments around the world, people are still being persecuted for who they are and who they choose to love. As the leader of one of the most progressive countries in the world, how do you help affect change in that regard?
That's one of the clear reasons why it's so important for the Prime Minister, whoever they may be, to walk in Pride parades. It's a message not just to Canadians, but to the world. But we also back that up with $30 million over the next 5 years for international community organizations, international and LGBT organizations to fight for rights that Canadians can take for granted.
A lot of people feel it takes some courage to come out, especially from the smaller communities. Even here in Canada, sometimes you feel a little bit alone. Seeing this crowd that gathers here, is there a message you want to share with them?
That is the message. There are so many allies out there that we are all standing together to stand up for human rights, to defend people's rights, and to defend the LGBTQ community.
Prime Minister, we would love to keep you for longer, but I know the parade's got to keep going.
We're holding up the parade. Thank you so much. Happy Pride, Prime Minister.
Thank you so much. Happy Pride! Happy Pride!
And there goes the Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau.
As journalists, we want to just keep talking and talking, but we don't want to hold up the parade any longer.
We've still got so many more floats to come, and here they come now.
Yeah, the Grand Marshal is following up Gigi Gorgeous. She is quite incredible. If you haven't seen her story, she had a documentary that was done about her transition that was premiered at Sundance. I'm not sure if it was within the last year, but she has such an incredible following and such a voice to the world about her journey. And this has really inspired a lot of people, again, who felt very alone in their journey, and she's using this as a real opportunity to tell other people that it's okay to be your authentic self. And I got a chance.
There she is. She's right behind us.
She is right behind us.
And it's so important, Bill, that, you know, there are role models like Gigi Gorgeous who come out and share their story. Because, like you say, there are so many people who are, you know, still not comfortable with who they are or still not sure, and they're not really quite sure how to go about it.
Yeah, it is an incredibly diverse community. Sexuality, color, everything. You want to be able to identify with someone who shares your story. And all those stories are worthy of being told. And this is the one we're focusing on. Trans issues have been really in the spotlight for the last few years because there was a feeling that there were those left behind when the general trend towards acceptance of gay issues, but trans still had issues with, they felt, police, with the broader, even within their own community, or our own community, that this is an important story to tell, especially at this time.
And it's so important that you frame it in a positive light. I mean, so many feel are surrounded by negativity, you know, in their journey. And so it's so wonderful to see this, to see it being celebrated, and to see it, you know, front row center on a day that is so celebratory.
And speaking of stories, Jax from 99 Virgin, she's here to share some of those important stories. Jax, what do you have for us?
Yes, absolutely. It's, first of all, getting wild here on the parade route. I'm joined here by Karim Ladak, and he is, first of all, an amazing human. And secondly, of course, I think it's important to ask, what pronouns do you use and how do you identify?
He, him.
Sorry, one more time?
He, him.
All right, he, him. And you've done extensive traveling around the world. So, I mean, we're downtown Toronto right now, but you've seen different parts of the world. This is not, sadly, the way the rest of the world is.
It isn't.
No.
And so when you do travel the world, as much as I have had the pleasure of having done, it is so clear that there are some countries in which this would never be imagined. Yet there is spots of hope happening in different parts of the world, so it's kind of a mixed message. But on a Pride Day like today, when we're all joyous, I actually do think about our fellow community members who don't have what we have here.
And earlier we were kind of chatting about foundations that are important to get involved in. Of course, we have a ton going on here today, but if you were kind of to give any advice on how somebody can help as an ally when they're helping out with Pride, what would that be?
So there are multiple ways of helping. One is an initiative we're doing with Interpride, which is really kind of matching prides up around the world. So there was one between Montreal and Kenya, for example. So that's a very practical example. Another one is right here within Canada, helping organizations like Rainbow Railroad to bring people in. The Canadian HIV/AIDS organization, who is really doing some policy work. So I think if you have an intent, there's lots of avenues to be able to help people, other than just personal.
So it's safe to say, whether you're in downtown Toronto or wherever you are in the world, there is a way to help.
Where in the world is there a ways to go?
Wherever you are in the world, there's always a way to help. And I just wanted to ask you, if you had one piece of advice to anybody coming downtown today, what would it be?
It would be get comfortable with your skin, enjoy the day. It is a day made in heaven. Make the best of it, because we don't get many of these.
Absolutely. Finally, a sunny day in downtown Toronto. Krim Ladak, I appreciate it so much, and happy Pride, my love. Thank you. Thank you.
So
we just saw Women's College Hospital make their way down here in front of us. They are the honored group for Pride, the parade this year.
this is Sharon from Sharon and Bram. Happy Pride! Oh my gosh, so good to see you.
Pride, great to be here.
You've always put a smile on my face.
All of our faces.
All of our faces.
Everyone is smiling here today. It's pretty thrilling.
It really is. What does this make you feel? Is it a pride? Is it a sense of, wow, these people have courage?
It's all of that. I'm immensely proud to be part of this, because it's something for our city to be proud of. And I admire the brave people who have worked hard to make this happen over many years and to find their appropriate place in society.
And when you see how much this parade has grown in our city, I mean, really, it's become an example around the world.
Absolutely. Well, Toronto is an example. We have the opportunity to be a diverse, multicultural, all kinds of people welcome example around the world.
You've always been a teacher with your music and with your smile and with your words. What would you like to teach those who don't see a place for this in the world?
The world is better for all of this, and people just need to open their hearts and make room for differences. Differences make us interesting and better.
And do you think that when people watch this parade, perhaps people watching at home, young people watching at home who are still struggling with their own identities, that, this is a moment that they can partake in, in their own way and be inspired by it?
And start to find their way to where they fit and where they belong. One hopes for that, for sure.
And it's about being your own, it sounds cliche, but being your own authentic, true self.
Absolutely. That's exactly what it's about. And we see that all over the place today here.
It must inspire you a lot.
Absolutely.
What is the most fun part of this parade for you? This is a celebratory day, among so many things. It's a day to celebrate.
Well, for sure it's a celebration. And for me personally, as I ride down the street and people are singing Skinnamarink, they're singing about love. Isn't that most appropriate here?
That's true.
Sure is.
Yeah.
Love is love.
Love is love, exactly.
Love is love.
Thank you
so
guys.
much,
it's
Sharon.
a pleasure.
Yes, thanks for sharing the stage with us
Thank you.
today.
Oh, it's a treat.
We're going to
Thank
send
you
it
both.
over to Gurdeep. Gurdeep, Skinnamarink dinky dink, Skinnamarink doo. I love you, buddy.
All right, guys. Well, timing is everything. And right as you come to me, there's a big truck that has stopped at the intersection of Yonge and Bloor. So I've lost my cameraman. He's on the other side. I have no idea what Kevin is shooting, but I'm going to try and find him. There he is. Kevin, what's up? Here we go, right here. Hey, here we are, Yonge and Bloor. Happy Pride, everybody! Gonna make my way down here to some new friends that I met here from London, Ontario. Happy Pride, guys.
Happy Pride!
Let me get everybody's names.
Heather, Kari, Andrea.
Andrea, I understand it's your birthday. Happy birthday.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Happy birthday and a happy Pride. So tell me, Heather, why did you guys make the trek down here for a whole weekend in Toronto?
I am very proudly gay, and my mom is amazing, and we have family down here, so we just wanted to come hang out, and it just happened to be the perfect weekend.
You've got a very supportive family. Was it always that way? Was it a challenge?
Always. I have always had an incredibly supportive family.
Well, you guys chose an incredible weekend to be down in Toronto. You told me you've been here since Thursday. What have been the highlights of the weekend other than today?
Probably Centerville for me. I haven't been there before, so we walked around and hit the beach, and it was fantastic.
Lovely. What about you?
All the very attractive men that live in Toronto.
Well, you'll get very attractive everybody here at the Pride Parade today. And what about yourself? What did you love the most about this weekend?
Other than the parade, I just love the constant like rainbows everywhere because we don't get that in London.
And have you been down to this Pride before?
No, this is my first Toronto Pride.
Oh my goodness, is it overwhelming? Is it what you expected?
It's beyond everything I ever wanted.
It really is amazing. This is my 7th one, and it always takes my breath away. Guys, thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your stay here in Toronto. Safe travels back to London, Ontario. Happy Pride, happy birthday. We're still hanging out here at the corner of Yonge and Bloor. All the floats are passing us here as we wait for our very own CP24 float, which will be here at some point. Timing is a bit tricky. All right, Bill Zoraida, back over to you.
Thank you, Gurdeep. We have the Minister of Tourism here now, Minister Jolie. Thank you for joining us. Up
Pleasure.
Here. I mean, when you think about tourism and you know people coming to visit our city, is this not one of the highlights?
It is. And you know, Canada is a country where you can be proud of being yourself and be at ease of being yourself. And we're known throughout the world of being very open and friendly to the LGBTQ community. This is a community that travels a lot, 4 to 6 times more than average people, and that spend a lot. And obviously, we want more people coming to Toronto Pride, so that's why we increase the funding to increase the fun.
Minister Jolie is still
super
smiling, but after getting super soaked. It is sometimes the purse strings tighten, but I feel that right now there's a lot of money coming back, thank goodness, into some of the bigger prides and the smaller ones as well. What does that mean for these organizations to be able to put on something like this?
Of course, they can better their programming, they can have more events. Not only that, they can be, yes, in the downtown core, but also a bit in the outskirts of Toronto, and that will help the organization also to reach out to new communities. And so that's the idea.
This is your first Toronto Pride
Yes, it is.
parade.
Yeah.
What do you think of it so far?
Wow. It is great. I'm from Montreal. I'm used to the Montreal Pride Parade. But this is something because I feel, you know, just looking at the financial district, just seeing how the businesses have embraced Pride and how it's something that actually it's not only about Pride, it's about Toronto. So after the Raptors, now Pride, I think everybody today is a Torontonian.
This is being broadcast around the world on CP24.com. So all the eyes of the world watching. Does that give you a sense of pride that we can show off this kind of celebration and diversity and draw people back into our city?
Yes, well, that's the idea because we need to do it. It's up to us as, you know, leaders to make sure that everybody feels safe, feels comfortable, at ease, and within their rights within our society. That doesn't happen by fluke. It happens because collectively we decide that it is a priority. And today we're celebrating that it is a priority.
And here in Toronto, the Pride Parade, I mean, it is celebrated by everybody.
2 million people.
It is not just the community. It is like everybody, you know, across the city, across the GTA, come out and celebrate this day. And so it's really it crosses boundaries, it crosses spectrums.
Yes. So what we did actually was to support more Pride in Toronto, also in Montreal and Vancouver, but what we need to do next, and that's what we'll be working on, is supporting many other Prides in many rural communities in order to make sure that people that are part of the LGBTQ2 community also within these rural communities are feeling at ease and that they can celebrate and that we can make sure that there's acceptance towards them all across the country.
What do you think it is about Canadians that set us so far apart and so far ahead on LGBTQ issues?
Well, I think we've been at the forefront of the LGBTQ movement, and years ago, the government at the time accepted LGBTQ2 marriage. As a government, we decided to also recognize transgender rights. We made sure also that we would be investing in a new LGBTQ secretariat, that every policy we're making, we have that lens. And also, we've done some very important excuses towards the people that used to work within the federal government and that were discriminated based on their gender their sexuality, and so therefore it's been a priority for the Prime Minister. He's been at every single Pride, and we make sure that we continue working on that.
And Toronto has always been known as a city that celebrates diversity, that celebrates inclusivity, and I mean, this is certainly just such a wonderful example of that to show to the world.
Yes, indeed. And so that's why, we want to fund it. We want to make sure that people feel comfortable, that feel safe, and we want to draw the world to Toronto during this time of the year.
Well, thank you very much. Merci
It's
beaucoup.
a pleasure. Merci beaucoup.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Enjoy. Happy Pride, everybody.
Happy Pride.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
It's amazing to paint a little picture, too, of what we see from this vantage point. Again, such a privilege. We've got some stilt walkers behind us. And this is the celebratory part. I mean, we have the dignitaries, we have the activists, we have the programs, which are so important. But sometimes, why not stilt walkers? That's
fun.
It's fun.
Fun is a huge part of this parade.
It is. It's a celebration. I've seen people walk on very high stilettos, but I think that's
I don't
that's
know
a little
how
more challenging.
They walk 2 kilometers on those stilts, Bill.
I don't know. I couldn't do that. I have trouble standing up for 4 hours. At the end of it, I need to take a nap. But there are those far more talented than I.
Don't nap on me yet.
No, I won't.
Okay.
Minister Joly was talking a lot about corporate involvement, and it's always been a point of discussion as well. Has the community sort of given up its grassroots mandate in favor of bringing corporate dollars? But there are a lot of those that say, with these corporate dollars, all those other things that are important in pushing towards reforms and in funding these community activities and programs, those two can work in partnership. And I think that's the way Pride Toronto kind of looks at it. There will always be those that would rather see a little less corporate and a little bit more activism. But I think this whole weekend, and now a Pride Month overall, gives opportunity for those that want to speak about maybe the more serious issues on a quieter platform to do that. And today has a little bit of everything.
It's always about striking that balance. And because the parade does grow every year, so you certainly want to have that discussion every year. You want the parade to grow every year, but like you say, at the same time, you never want to lose touch of why you're doing it in the first place. You never want to lose the whole point of it.
Yeah, and it does come back, and it's a good segue back to the theme this year, which is the 50th anniversary of the Stonewall riots, which basically, the Stonewall Inn was a place where the LGBTQ could quietly gather and socialize, and the police came in and they raided, and there was a point at which they said no more, and the community there fought back, and it really is seen as the beginning of equality rights movement within the LGBT community.
Let's go back to Gurdeep, Bill, because I know Gurdeep is somewhere back there.
If he was closer, we'd be getting wet from his super soaker.
Gurdeep, what do you got?
All right, guys, so we are on Yonge Street. We are slowly making our way south, probably about 100 meters or so from Charles Street. There we are. How you guys doing? Oh my goodness, this feels like the MMVAs, but way crazier and way bigger. All right, I'm gonna let Kevin find me down here, and I'm gonna step right here over to my new friend Daphne, who came from Mississauga. You look lovely in the rainbow colors. How you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm having so much fun here, honestly.
Happy Pride to you. Now, you were just telling me this is your first ever Pride Parade. Had you thought about coming down in the past? Why was this the year for you?
I have thought about coming down in the past, but this year was extra special for me because this year was the year that I embraced the fact that I'm bi. So it's just a really big thing for me because a lot of the people in my life still don't know. And I figured this is the best time. Why not? Like, I've embraced who I am, and it's time to come celebrate with a whole bunch of people who have gone through a lot of things to embrace who they are too.
You said that so beautifully, and the fact that you said that live on CP24, we'll consider this your official coming out party. What was that process like for you, if I can ask you, when you came out to the people very close to you, your inner circle?
Well, I was lucky enough that like most of my friends are very open-minded, and among my friends there's a lot of people in the community, and most of them weren't really that surprised, to be honest with you. The few that were surprised just kind of went, oh, okay, that's cool. So I'm lucky, but I know that I have a lot of friends who struggled with it.
Does this feel like a pretty liberating experience for you, being not just here, but your front row?
It does. It's amazing. It's so freeing. I found myself crying earlier, and I was just so overwhelmed and so happy. It's amazing.
I'm going to give you a hug.
Hey guys, Toronto City Council, Mayor.
Thank you for sharing that beautiful story with me. You didn't have to do it, but really appreciate it. Happy Pride, and I'm so glad you're here. We hope to see you back here next year.
I'll definitely be back here next year. Thank you so much.
You know, I love stories like that. We get those sometimes right here when we're walking the route, and it's really a beautiful thing. It is Toronto. Bill Zoraida, let's send it back over to you.
Thank you, Gurdeep. Boy, it's getting loud over here, Belle. You were right.
Look, we're getting pride flags.
We just got some little pride flags here.
So they're on notice that I'm on my way down Yonge Street, and I'm going to deal with them.
The warning has been issued. We've got that on footage forever now.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Did you approve of that?
I do so approve. No comment. No comment. No comment.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. And hold on. Let me get you right here, Kevin Hoppler. We got some on the lens right there. Okay, Mr. Mayor, you saw it live here, squirting me with a water gun on CP24. I hope you guys caught that. And there he is shaking hands right now and making some brand new friends right here along the Pride Parade. Mayor John Tory down here every single year. He is a staple, just like the Super Soakers. He's got it in his left hand. He's ready to use it, and I'm soaked right now, guys, so we can thank the mayor for that. We'll send it back over to you guys on the main stage as we approach Yonge and Charles. And Bill Zoraida, not sure if you heard that, Mr. Mayor said, that's a warning to you two, he's getting closer, so keep an eye out.
Hey, listen, I wasn't here last year. I had no part of that. You need to tell him that, Gurdeep.
Yeah, I don't think that was us, Gurdeep, though. We were just having the interview, and someone in the crowd decided the mayor needed a Super Soaker. But you know what? If the mayor has a Super Soaker, I will be willing to accept that retaliation. Why not?
And I'd be willing to let you.
Well, okay, Zoraida, I will protect you from those Super Soaker sprays. Jax Irwin is from 99 Virgin Radio, part of our broader family, and has been getting these really great stories, the stories that need to be told about those all across the spectrum. And we're going to send it over to Jax to hear from her about who she's talking to right now.
Yeah,
Jax?
thank you so much, Bill. It's a beautiful day, continues. The Pride is in full effect. I'm joined here by Sam Naylor, and I've been doing this because I think it's very important to normalize verbalization of pronouns. How do you like to be referred to pronoun-wise?
Thanks for asking. I agree, it's very important. My pronouns are he, him.
Absolutely. Now, can you tell me a little bit about your story? Not, up until now, I think that's a hard question to ask, but how do you identify?
I identify as a male, F to M trans male. I choose when to come out, and in events like this, I'm very open to being vocal about it because I think it should be normalized. I wouldn't say it's a huge part of my identity, but it is an important part. So.
Fantastic. Yeah. And when did you, if you don't mind me asking, begin the process of transitioning? I know it's a lifelong process, but when did you start to maybe tell family and friends, etc.?
About 3 years ago, I'd met my first trans advocate, and I started talking about my story a bit, and they encouraged me to go through the process, and it was very gradual, but I'd say I officially made the decision and started coming out to my close family and friends about 3 years ago.
Well, you are such a happy and successful and positive light, and I just wanted to ask you, because I think this is also important, what does Pride mean to you, Sam?
I think Pride for me means just like really embracing your queer identity, in my opinion, and the intersections of that. So the queer community has so many different facets, whether you're a person of color, gender non-conforming, a female, a person of disability. So I'd say for me, it's really embracing all those intersections within the queer community.
And I mean, we are, of course, right downtown Toronto, in the middle of the Pride Parade now, but a lot of people who are watching online and on television don't have, the privilege of being here. Maybe they're more rural. So if you could give advice to maybe a younger version of yourself or somebody watching that isn't as familiar or comfortable with transitioning and etc., what would it be?
I have to say we're in an amazing era or age right now where we have access to technology, and it's been instrumental in my journey because just because I'm trans doesn't mean I'm going to connect with every trans person I meet. So for me, my online community, just Instagram and messaging people and getting support that way has been amazing to help me feel comfortable. And through that, I've been able to create my own community of other trans people and seen my friends transition after I've transitioned. Not that they did it because of me, but just them being comfortable talking to me about it. So I'd say the online community could be the starting point. of growing your own community was my experience, yeah.
And I think, you know, chatting about this and sharing your story is so brave and so wonderful of you. So I thank you so much. I wanted to give you, ask you one more question, though, because it's a hot day in Toronto. So I want to know if you have advice to all the parade goers today, what would it be?
Have a great time, stay hydrated, and come check out the CP24 booth.
Thank you so much, Sam Naylor. And also drink lots of water because it's going to be hot. Thank you so much, love.
Thank you, Jax, and I love that throw over to the CP24 booth. Absolutely check that out. Once you're done all the celebrations today, and they will continue. We will have more from the 39th Annual Toronto Pride Parade. It is underway. We'll be back.
It's time to bring the country together. One pit stop at a time.
Looking to simplify your skincare routine without sacrificing results? Try Olay Total Effects for a 7-in-1 solution. Its unique formula is packed with vitamin B3, E, and C. In fact, a single pump contains more vitamin B3 than 50 cups of kale. Olay Total Effects gently renews skin cells and is proven to improve 7 key areas of visibly healthy-looking skin. Save time and money on your skin routine with Olay Total Effects. Brand power helping you buy better.
Everyone has a place. In towns and cities, where every turn brings a new adventure, where time is endless and worries far, far away. Where the boardwalk says, welcome, stay a little longer. Where every day is Friday. And True North is in your backyard. Friday, I'm in love. Friday Harbor, Canada's all-seasons resort.
There's a collision right now in Dundas, just east of University. Buses are not going through that area, so try to utilize other TTC stops. Delays right now due to signal problems on the GO Transit's Barrie line coming into Union Station. Expect about a 20 to 30-minute delay.
Closed captioning of this CP24 program is brought to you by Casa Loma. This summer, experience the castle after dark with live performances in the Glass Pavilion. Details at casaloma.ca.
The following program is a live broadcast and despite our best efforts may contain coarse language, sexually explicit material, scenes of nudity, and other mature subject matter which may be offensive to some viewers. Viewer discretion is advised.
Welcome back to the 39th Annual Toronto Pride Parade. It is well underway, and Zoraida, look what's back.
The sun has come back.
The sun has come back.
But we know what we can't really complain, right? Because the last couple of years it's been a rainy, soggy Pride Parade. And so now the sun is out, everybody's having a great time, enjoying themselves. The umbrellas are back out, but that's, you know, to shade themselves from the sun, and that's a good thing.
It is a great thing. And just a reminder to stay hydrated, you know, be mindful of those around you. If someone looks a little distressed, you know, take care of each other. It's a day that's meant for that. We've had a great opportunity to see some really amazing floats and big contingents come by. We spoke to the Prime Minister a little bit earlier, talking about some of the initiatives, both for trans and for funding. Minister Jolie from the
Tourism.
From Minister of Tourism, some of the money going back in. Not only, you know, I knew the money was going back into Montreal, Toronto, and Vancouver, but there are initiatives to get them into Pride celebrations in smaller towns where perhaps it is really important money spent, because those are the areas when people really do feel isolated and alone when they're going through the journeys, be it if you're gay or trans. There's no just about anything. It's exclusively this or exclusively that. And I think these are really, really important initiatives. But this day is about celebrations, about activism. It's getting hot again.
It's getting hot.
We have a little bit of gap, but look what's coming, Zoraida.
Yeah, the wonderful floats continue to make their way down south here on Yonge Street. We're at Yonge in Grenville, really in the heart of all of it, as the floats make their way down to Yonge Dundas Square. And so I think, I wouldn't even say we're halfway through, because there are 227 floats.
Yeah, I think that would be a little ambitious to say we were halfway through.
No.
But, you know, the amazing thing is, it is a very long parade. Gurdeep's been doing this for about 10 years, so he knows that it's a long parade, but the energy makes it go surprisingly fast, does it not, Gurdeep? We're exhausted by the end of it, but certainly we're feeding on this energy. How's it looking where you are, Gurdeep?
Oh my goodness, it is amazing. And guys, guess what? We finally got the CP24 truck. We found it. Reunited, and it feels so good. Sorry, I'm horribly off tune, but hello, how are you doing in there?
I'm doing great. Happy Pride.
Happy Pride to you too. Multitasking, driving the vehicle down the route. Happy Pride, everybody! Hi, new friends. What are your names?
Tatiana. Hello, Tatiana.
One. What brings you down to Pride today?
Just enjoy the holiday all together with everybody.
Did you guys travel far to be here?
No, I live here, but my parents, yes, through the ocean, yeah?
Oh, where are you from?
From Ukraine.
From Ukraine, and you're just visiting here in Toronto?
Yes.
What are your impressions of Pride? Is this your first one?
Yeah. First, yeah.
First one for you too?
Yeah, for me too.
Pretty amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, it looks great. So many cheers.
Were you at the Raptors parade earlier this week?
Yes, I've been to. It was great.
So you got
many people, yeah.
2 parades in 1 week.
Yeah, imagine.
Well, welcome, enjoy your stay here. Happy Pride.
Happy Pride, thank you.
All right, so we're making all kinds of friends down the route, and you know, this is interesting right here. The mayor is soaked. I am soaked as well. This is a dangerous float to people.
I'm in a truce with you.
You made a truce with me?
Yeah.
I think it's only a truce if I get to squirt you back.
Where is
May I?
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
Here, I'm going to give you the mic.
I've been doing this for years.
Hold on.
Ladies and gentlemen, I am about to be squirted by Gurdeep. And here it goes. 1, 2, 3.
I can't believe I just did that.
Fantastic. No, yeah, the police are just waiting down there for you.
Are you still going to come on CP24 Breakfast and talk to me?
Of course I will.
Okay.
Anytime.
I can't believe I did that. Live television, thank you. Oh man, the mayor is soaked. I thought I had it bad right here. Oh boy. Good thing it's a hot one today. Happy Pride, everybody. How you guys doing? Oh, it is wild down here. Bill Zoraida, will send it back over to you.
Gurdeep, I would check your property tax bill the next time it comes in, because the mayor has some pull down there. You may be paying a little bit more, but you know what?
I just hope the mayor runs out of Super Soaker by the time he gets to us.
Yeah, I am shocked that we have not been squirted by a Super Soaker yet. But
we got a little bit there at the beginning.
Oh, just a little bit. That's nothing. It's already, obviously this is your first year. I guess we're going to get a lot wetter than that.
Enza, how have you know, the floats that we've seen so far, do they get bigger and brighter as each year progresses?
Each year they get bigger and brighter and bigger. And, you know, when you see the sea of party goers, sea of trucks, sea of hot guys on the trucks, you just can't help but just enjoy the environment, enjoy the atmosphere, right? And, you know, this is what people look forward to come June. And this takes a year of planning. And so the minute this ends today, tomorrow they start planning. Yeah.
Yeah, we're talking about finding a balance. When you look at this parade, having been through many before, what stands out? What speaks to you as, you know, there's a balance of fun and activism, but what are the important elements that people really should be paying attention to in this parade?
I think a lot of the fact is where the gay community has come from. You know, when you see these groups coming down, you see a lot of groups that did a lot of activism to get to where we're at today, right? For example, like you'll see like the AIDS Committee of Toronto, right? Like PFLAG, those kinds of advocate groups that fought for people to sort of have equality, right? So, you know, it's great to enjoy this, but people have to remember that it took a lot of years of activism to get to where we're today.
Is there a message from watching this that maybe people can take away and join in sort of the activism? Like this is one day, but the rest of the year, important things need to happen.
You know, they say there's power in numbers, right? And this shows a community that's united. Although there's a lot of issues still, but this really shows that there's a community united to make sure that the LGBT community is represented, equal opportunity for everybody.
And given the size of the Toronto parade, I think it's also great too that it shows not only that the community is united, but that there is support for this community.
Absolutely. You know, when you see these people coming down here, you know, you can just feel the love, and it's true. You know, love is love. I've seen it everywhere, and when you see these people coming down there, there's a sense that there's a united front in this community.
Yeah, sometimes we think here that these just come with being Canadian, but these have been hard-fought wars, and we continue to see that progress moving forward. We're going to have so much more for the 39th Annual Toronto Pride Parade coming up. Stick around, Zoraida I and Enza Anderson will be back.
At Sandals 5-star luxury included resorts, we'll take you places you've never been before, but we'll remember forever. Call 1-800-SANDALS.
Family and friends have been recommending Capital Direct for years. Could you use $20,000? $30,000? How about $300,000? Compared to the banks these days, Capital Direct's lending criteria are not as strict. With a home equity loan from Capital Direct, the money you could really use right now is just a phone call away. It's that simple. Call today at 1-800-NEW-CAPITAL.
CapitalDirect.ca.
Make it, break it, drill it, drive it. Ryobi now has over 100 tools that all work on the same battery. So when you have something to do, there's 100 different ways to get it done. Cut it, sand it, trim it, nail it, and do it all yourself, all on the same battery.
Every day, families in this neighborhood work hard trying to get ahead. They make tough choices because of the rising cost of living. I understand their frustration when government makes it hard to even get by. That's why I will cancel the carbon tax, take the GST off of home energy bills, and make maternity leave tax-free. I'm Andrew Scheer. How do I know what it's like for families in this neighborhood? Because this is where I grew up.
The 39th Annual Pride Parade takes over Yonge Street, and CP24 has exclusive live coverage of the parade and party goers. Time is 3:30. We're sitting at 25 degrees from 299 Queen Street West. This is Toronto's breaking news. CP24, good afternoon. I'm Carmen Wong.
The following program is a live broadcast, and despite our best efforts, may contain coarse language, sexually explicit material, scenes of nudity, and other mature subject matter which may be offensive to some viewers. Viewer discretion is advised.
The Toronto Pride Parade is kicking off in the downtown core. CP24 has you covered all afternoon with live exclusive coverage. CP24's Bill Coulter and CTV's Zoraida Allman are in the middle of all the action. They join us now live. Hey, guys.
Hi,
hey, Carmen.
Yeah, the music's really getting going now here, thanks to Casey House. And as the float goes by, we've got Mark Trask here. How's the day been for you guys so far?
The day has been
doing fantastic. We're having a blast with the parade. We have our clients out. It's the one chance in the year when they get to go down Yonge Street in whatever way they want to do and whatever way they want to be.
Casey House has such a proud history of serving those with HIV/AIDS at a time when it wasn't an easy thing to do. You have moved into your new space. That must be extremely exciting.
We are now Ontario's HIV/AIDS hospital. We are a specialty hospital now, no longer a hospice. We are a place where people come to get well, and we're really proud of that. We have an enormous number of new programs, and we have the Minister of Health marching with us, and the Deputy Premier. So she's just about to come and join us on the podium.
What an important thing you guys do. So there is really so much to celebrate for you guys today.
Absolutely. We love celebrating today. We celebrate 365 days a year, but we certainly celebrate today the most.
And hopefully it's a funny thing, but at some point you will probably be happiest when we no longer need an HIV/AIDS hospital. But for now, the need is there.
That is absolutely our dream, but we have a long ways to go yet.